I started my tutoring business over a decade ago and I've made so many mistakes in it that I thought I'd just do an entire video about it. Let's start from number 5 going down to number 1, with 1 being the biggest mistake of all. 5. Not asking for student feedback until the end of my time working with the student. Seeking feedback is such a good way to assess how things are going in your business and finding out areas of improvement. But when I first started out in tutoring, it didn't really occur to me to start asking for feedback regularly. I'd only really ask a student for feedback or a testimonial once I'd actually finished working with them, which meant that I missed out on valuable opportunities to hear their insights. Number 4. Letting lessons frequently run over time. In my early days of tutoring, if a lesson was scheduled for 60 minutes long, I would often go over time by 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I thought I had to answer absolutely every single question the student had by the end of the lesson. And so what happened was that it started this frustrating pattern where it became normal for the student for me to offer them an extra 5 to 10 minutes at the end of a session just for them to ask their final questions. This continued until I realized that if I added on 5 minutes to every single lesson I was having, by the end of the year, I'd be giving away at least 4 hours of free, valuable advice that I wasn't being paid for. Your time is valuable, people. 3. Being too nervous to enforce my expectations. So branching on from number 4, when I started tutoring, I was scared to actually uphold my boundaries, and this led to situations like feeling obligated to give my students extra time in their lessons. Once I started enforcing my expectations, like 24 hours notice on cancellations and ending sessions on time, I was able to improve the dynamic of my students and increase work-life balance. This encouraged students to respect my time too, which meant that they rocked up to sessions having their questions ready and having their homework done ready to be reviewed. 2. Not increasing my prices when I needed to. When I first started tutoring, there were situations where I'd be in my second year with my student and my prices had gone up for my new students, but I kept the prices the same for that original old student. It was kind of like a mates rate situation where I felt bad for increasing my prices with them. What I'd forgotten about my prices increasing was that it was because my experience had increased. I was working with more students and my time was worth more than I was charging. Once I constantly started upping my prices, I found that my students were actually really receptive to this. And now down to number 1, my biggest mistake of all. Saying yes to any student despite my doubts of their suitability. One major thing I've learned about running a tutoring business is the importance of saying no. When I first started out in tutoring, and you're probably going to be like this too, you just say yes to absolutely everyone, even if you're not quite sure if you're both going to be the right fit for each other. While this meant that I was onboarding more students overall, it meant that many students would be inconsistent with their lessons, some would cancel last minute, and some just would often not do their work that I'd asked them to. By assessing a student's suitability before saying yes, I was actually able to ensure that I was meeting mine and the student's best interests. For me, each of these mistakes taught me a valuable lesson and helped me improve my quality of tutoring. I'm a firm believer that we're all going to make mistakes, but what's important is what we learn from them. And for me to share my experience with you so that you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. If you're wondering what other mistakes tutors often make, then I highly recommend you have a look at my free 90-minute masterclass, the 3-step framework to a 6-figure tutoring career, where I cover this in more detail and help you avoid these errors. The link is just up on the screen. If you've reached this far in the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I hope that this video has taught you a valuable lesson. Share down below in the comments below exactly which number mistake was your favorite in this video so I can elaborate more on the mistake in my future videos. All right, until next time, bye.